What's going on, guys? It's Dan the Man, aka Daniel's son, and we are at the end of the year. And boy, do we have one last kind of film to really talk about. And this has been such a big buildup for years, and it's a spectacle. And I was able to watch this film, which we're going to talk, and it's going to be spoilers. So be warned, I'm going to really dig deep on what I liked and what I disliked about Avatar: The Way of Water. So before we get into our review, be sure to hit the subscribe button and like the video and push the notification button. But let's just get right into it, man. It is a big spectacle. It has been like years of James Cameron. Like, James Cameron hasn't made anything else. He's produced a lot of stuff like Terminator Dark Fate, but he hasn't really made anything else. He is really invested. He's taken a lot of years of his life for this Avatar series. I mean, we have Avatar: Way of Water, and I think they filmed it back to back. We're supposed to have a third one. And then after the third one, we're going to see if we get a fourth and fifth one. So, but let's just talk about this new entry. And I'm going to say, like, I went into the theater, it was semi-packed, it was half full. But it's definitely something off the bat, you need to watch it in the movie theater. You need to watch in the biggest screen, of course. This is a spectacle. This is a film that is meant for you to go to the movie theaters and watch it. And I think that's great. I love the movie theater experience. Sometimes it's not all good, but it's great to have people put their butts in the seat and you experience this experience all together. So Avatar 2, I gotta say, I'm a little bit mixed about the film. I actually rewatched the first film and I was kind of like surprised that it held up in my standards. I was surprised that I actually still enjoyed the first film. What I loved about it was the action sequences, and it is an achievement of, visual effects and all that stuff. And this sequel it does the same thing. It's really similar to the first one, where you go in it and you're just blown away about how realistic it is. And I know the frame rate is different. I think they shot it in a more higher frame rate, and you see little things here and there where you could say it is like a video game-esque kind of look to it. But the cinematography is fantastic, especially the last fight towards the very end with, the Sully family and with Stephen Lang's character. And the positives is that the action sequences are really great. James Cameron absolutely knows how to work a camera and knows how to do a lot of these things, these big setups, these big events. He doesn't crumble under the pressure. Here's my problem, though, is that I think, what's crazy is I'm one of the few that think Sam Worthington in the first one I didn't knock his performance. I thought he was fine. I thought after watching the first one, I thought Jake was really dumb, but then he starts becoming more of a warrior and he starts becoming more confident. And at the end, I kind of like the character. In this one, I'm glad that he is not as stupid as he is, and that he really is. You really feel he is the leader. You really feel that he's taken steps of becoming a stronger person, especially now that he's a father. And he could say with Zoe Saldana's character, Tiri, I love this character. I think she's so good in this role, and I think she kicks ass again this second time around, even though she doesn't have that much screen time in here. And that's kind of one of the main problems, is that it's really focused on the Sully kids. It's really focused on actually like these whale-like creatures that are very intelligent, which I like some aspect of for the film on that. I like, the bond he has with one of the Sully kids and the outcast idea, but there's a lot of times, here's the problem with James Cameron is, if you watch The Abyss too, is he loves to stretch out scenes, which I think is fine. I think it's great when a slower movie could really kind of stretch out a scene and it actually makes a scene still, it brings the movie a little bit more of a higher level if it's used right. But with James Cameron, he has so many scenes where it's just really stretched out, and I get it. It's the way of water. You want to see the water. You want to see the creatures. You want to see the environment. You want to see the expansion, the lore, the world building. But I think it goes way too long. I think the pacing of this film is just really bad. Like it's really jumping all over the place where you don't get a lot of Jake and Natiri. You don't get a lot of that. And I was kind of shocked that they left so early where they were living, the forest, right? And they went to join a new tribe, which I was fine with because it is kind of like similar to the first one where they're learning how to adapt and how to be one with water, basically. But I just think the pacing was just kind of all over the place, especially when you have Stephen Lang's character come back and he's a clone, and it's really ridiculous how like they kind of knew that if they die from Jake, that at least they have a backup plan, and they have this avatar. They send all their memories and all that stuff to Earth, and they're building, like, they make an avatar. It's just kind of ridiculous when you think about it, especially the timeline. Like, what the heck? Or even Stephen Lang's character, or the Colonel, he has a son who's Spider, and Spider. I think a lot of people, either you're going to get on board with the kids or not. I don't think they're horrible. I think they actually, like, you end up actually kind of liking them. You do, you do end up liking them, and you do end up like, they're just really the bulk of the movie, and you kind of are kind of taken aback a little bit because you think it's going to be more a Jake story, but it's not. And I was kind of like, I would have liked it be a little bit more of Jake's story, especially when you see a death coming a mile away. This death, I mean, Mr. Magoo could see this shit. When one of Jake's son, the older brother of our really the main kind of protagonist of it all, when he befriends that whale, I forget the name of it, but Jake's oldest son dies at the end of the movie, but you just really see it like coming from a mile away because these kids are always together and they're always getting in trouble, and they're always like, I'm surprised they lived so long because they're always put in these life-threatening situations, and they're always together. And at the end of the movie, James Cameron really hammers it home with Jake's dialogue. Is Jake says, we are weakest when we're together, but we're strongest when we're together. I like that. I like how that, it did play out in the movie, that dialogue towards the end of the movie, and it made sense. But my God, these kids were like in danger like 7 times in the film, and I was getting so frustrated, and I was just like, why? These kids are so stupid. The kids could be dumb, but there is a lot of elements, especially when they go to the other tribe, and of course they're half breeds. Jake's DNA went into like his kids have like 5 fingers instead of like 3. They really have to prove themselves to be one with to be in this kind of tribe. Of course, Jake, it's really no problem for him because he's really good at everything he does in the get-go. I mean, James Cameron does show the just them not easily learning a lot of the stuff, like this tribe, this water tribe. He really showcases like it is a struggle, which I really appreciate, and I think that's one of the pacing issues because he's not really just doing a montage. He's really kind of showing you like this is a struggle, and but it's really nice to see when they start learning it, and how it's kind of like when Superman's first flight, right, with Henry Cavill. It's like that. It's like, okay, he's finding his way. He's fighting his footing. So I really appreciated that. The action sequences were really, really good. I was kind of shocked it wasn't as epic as it was in the first one at the end of this film. It's a really self-contained, more emotional kind of battle, and then it goes kind of Titanic, where they're on the ship and they're sinking, and then it's like more of a survival mode kind of thing. But then you knew that the whale was going to come back and help somehow. You knew they set up the little jellyfishes when it attaches to you, it gives you air. I knew that was going to come to play at the end. I was a little iffy on Jake. I thought maybe he would have died, but I'm glad they didn't kill him off. And I kind of thought the Colonel was going to die, but then when he doesn't and Spider saves him, which that makes sense since Spider was with him. What didn't make sense was Spider was with them. Like, Spider just kind of goes along with the Colonel and his crew, and I'm just like, Why? What? And then he literally like kills somebody with a fire extinguisher and he's wrecking the whole ship. Yet nobody either, one, I know he's a kid, but nobody like takes him out. Two, nobody puts him, like handcuffs him anywhere. So that didn't make sense. They let Spider go free, and maybe there was dialogue, or maybe there was something that, or like, we didn't, they didn't showcase us. Like the Colonel said, no, that's my son, so leave him alone. But it's ridiculous. Like they should have absolutely contained this kid. Spider was okay. I like the idea that he's kind of like the Tarzan of everybody, where he's not, he wants to be an avatar so bad. He wants to be a Navi so bad, but then he's not. He's just running around the jungles. He's the whole explanation of they just found him, and that that was the Colonel's son, and like who's the mom? Like it just didn't. That doesn't add up to me, especially when you go from the first one to this one. But I do like the Tarzan kind of idea, and I could see Spider be having a bigger role later on, especially him saving the Colonel and not even telling everybody. You could totally tell, since the Colonel's not dead, that he's supposed to be the villain of these next upcoming films. But you can see a redemption arc happening because he's not the same Colonel as the one that died. He has his memories and stuff, but he's a Navi. He can't go back to Earth because he's a Navi. So I think when he started learning the ways of the Navi, especially the scene where he does get his own little dragon flying thing and everybody's just cheering on him and stuff. That's the same kind of spirit and same kind of victory kind of stance that the Navi have. He's learning. He's doing what they did and essentially feeling the same joys as they did. Now, some of the deaths were crazy, man. Like especially with the arrows. Like when somebody gets hit with an arrow, you feel that. You feel that. You see that. You say shit. Like some of the deaths in here are brutal, but they're good brutal. It's realistic brutal. The only thing that's not realistic is like, didn't they learn that you should have a shield on your airship from arrows? Because Natiri was just like knocking people out of the sky like no problem. I will say, okay, so the final battle, it worked for the film that James Cameron was doing in this one. I still like the first film's battle at the end a lot better, just because it's a very epic, rah kind of moment. Seeing all these flying creatures going after the military. It's very simplistic, but it's so good. I really love the music, the score in this film. Once again, phenomenal. So there's so much good in this film, but there's a lot of things that just really kind of weighs it down a little bit for it to be perfection. I mean, you have Sigourney Weaver and her character, who I'll call her baby girl because Jake calls her baby girl, and it's a mixed bag because she's gonna probably be more prominent later on in the films. Like she has this connection with pretty much nature, or what is it called, Awa. And she's able to like right away, you see her breathe when they're training or they're learning the ways of the water. She's underneath the water and she does not have to breathe. Like she has her mouth open and everything. So she's controlling the creatures that surround her. So she's gonna be a big time character later on. They just showcase a little bit here. She's able to, the scene where she meets her mom, Sigourney Weaver. The only thing I didn't like was they used the same voice. They used Sigourney Weaver as her voice, and I get it because she's the baby of the Avatar from the Avatar state. Maybe she's like she's a resurrection of her, or she's just, they kind of make her the Jesus of the story. But I honestly think they could have just used a different voice actress and we still get the point. I think that James Cameron did this just so everybody can realize like that, no, that's Sigourney Weaver. Like, no, just use a different voice actress, because throughout the film, some parts were fine, but then there was one line that she's like, oh, go, run. Like, it was so horribly delivered and so horribly, it sounded so horrible. There was things in and out when she was talking. I was like, oh my God, this is not match. I don't like this. It's not matching up with the kind of design that she has. And I gotta say, man, kudos to The designs, man, the designs of the Navi were fantastic. The designs of the Water Tribe, which the Water Tribe were really, really cool. I want more of them. I mean, you have your typical bullies and stuff, but I really like the chieftain. I really like, I believe that was Kate Winslet. I like the relationships they have with the tuco, or the whale like creatures. How the whales are intelligent, like they're both communicating with each other. It's kind of like cousins coming to visit. When the one particular scene where she's like, oh yeah, you have a baby and I'm having a baby, the boy's strong, like they're really just like friends, and you get that. And so when they kill the Kate Winslet's friend, or her spirit animal, like you feel that shit. You really, really feel like you feel that. And that the whole idea of like piercing the inside, getting the glands kind of, and then this being able to basically the fountain of youth, it stops aging. But when that guy said, you know how much this little vial costs? He said 80 million. 80 million? Like, that shit should be billions. Like, why is this only 80 million? So I thought that was hilarious. Some of the dialogue is still really bad, and some of it still feels like they should have just went over the script one more time and kind of cleaned a lot of things up. So yeah, so basically they're there to get that. It was cool to see Carmilla from Sopranos. I was kind of, I didn't notice it at first, and then I looked at her and heard her. I'm like, oh shit, that's Carmilla from Sopranos. It seems like they're setting her up to be a bigger bad. So there's a lot to digest in the film. Like I said, it looks stunning. The acting's at the most part really up to par, really good. It's just, I really still feel like the first one, I don't think the first one surpasses, of course, when it comes to the actual look and all that stuff. I think the second one just blows out of the water, because I mean, that was in 2009, and now we're in 2022. But when it came to just the overall kind of, as simple as the Ferngully Pocahontas story was in the first one, I actually kind of enjoyed the first one a little bit better when it comes to, I guess, story wise, or when it comes to essentially of more of an impact, of more of me kind of getting more into it. Don't get me wrong, I was really into this film. I was really into a lot of ideas, a lot of things they presented, the world building, but it just didn't land as much as I wanted it to. And I think it's the fact that we spend so much more time with the kids than Jake and Neytiri. Like, I wanted to see Jake and Neytiri more than I wanted to see the kids. And the kids weren't bad. I just think people who come out of there, if they don't end up really kind of enjoying this film, it's because of the fact that they spent more time with the kids. And they're building up the kids for the upcoming movies, because it's not going to be Jake's story not much longer. His story's kind of been told, honestly, even though he's still narrating this film as well. So, and then I think Neytiri too. I think there's a lot to explore with her as well, especially the relationship with her and Spider now, and knowing like that whole scene with the kind of the Mexican standoff was an interesting scene. I didn't know how to feel about Neytiri going that hard and that so much emotion after her kid died. And she, like I said, Zoe Saldana just killed it with just overall. And I love the scene because I like Jake and Neytiri. I like those two. I like that relationship, and him saying, I need you here. I need you to be strong. Our girls are there. We need to go rescue our girls. And now I want to see more of the buildup between Jake and now his other son. Like, now that he sees him, I know, that's a typical shit we see in every movie, but I want to see that build up, and I want to see how that relationship goes. And I want to see if this kid can become a leader. I don't need him to be like Jake, but I would like him to go a different route. So, and then, he has a thing for the other chieftain's daughter. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting where these movies kind of like take you. The one thing I really enjoyed too, as much as I didn't find, didn't have the impact of the first son's death. I didn't get emotional. I wasn't really crazy invested in it. I was like, I knew this was going to happen. All the stupid stuff the kids do throughout this whole film. But I have to say, when they take his body down to the ocean and he's back to AWA, and energy, we received energy, we got to give energy back and all that stuff. And then you see them, him, Jake and Natiri go to the Water Tribe's version of like the tree where all the spirits are, and then because their son is now buried into where the Water Tribe, like they're now with the Water Tribe. They're in their tribe now. So when they go to that spirit tree, that baby girl, she for some reason cannot. That's how she saw Sigourney Weaver, her mom. She can't do that again or she'll die. I don't get that whole thing, but we're gonna have to find out next film. But when Jake and Natiri do the little spirit thing, and then he sees his son, sees the kid, and then he sees like adult version of him, and like Natiri's right there just smiling, and you go to her present, like what she's on makeup and stuff, and she's smiling there. Like that was emotion. That was great. That was a great scene. That was very emotional. And I enjoyed that scene very, very much. At that point, though, I was ready to go take a piss. Like, this movie is just too long. It doesn't need to be 3 hours. It doesn't. There's a lot of scenes you could really, really cut. And honestly, like, you could cut. You could have easily made this like the first one. I think the first one was like 2 hours and 40 minutes. You could have easily got it down to 2 hours and 40 minutes. So, I did enjoy this film. I think I like the first one just a little bit better. I think they go hand in hand though. I think it's a perfect, like, you watch the first one, you go into this one, and you're in the same world, you're in the same, it feels the same. Like, it's basically kind of feeling like you go to New Hope and then you go to Empire, right? It's a little bit different, but yeah, it's very similar. The problem is, I mean, I think everybody can agree Empire is better than the New Hope, but they're still watchable. They're still enjoyable. Honestly, it's a slight, like, it depends on yourself, what you find better, or what you liked more, but you're still going to have a good time. It's still two great films that were made, and you could just enjoy them equally if you like too. So I think Avatar: Way of Water, it did its job. It's gonna bring butts to the cinema. I think this is a great spectacle to watch. I think it does improve on a lot of things from the first one, especially with the story wise, but for me, it doesn't reach that same kind of epicness as the first one, that same kind of freshness as the first. Well, I don't want to say freshness, but it just doesn't reach it, in my opinion. How I feel, I just like the first one just a little bit better, but I do love the ideas on here, and I can't wait for the third one. I think this is a great franchise. I think it's something different and new, and just like, it's not a superhero flick. It's more of definitely a message to the film. I just want James Cameron to kind of like clean up a little bit of things in here and there, but I don't doubt the man. The man knows how to make a film. So Avatar: Way of Water, what am I going to, do I say recommend or non-recommend? You're going to go watch it anyway. And I definitely think if I'm going to recommend anything, if you have an IMAX near you, go watch it in IMAX, man. Go watch it in the biggest screen, because it is visually absolutely gorgeous. And you need to watch this film on the biggest screen with the best surround sound. So, like I always say, guys, I'm Danny Danielson. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and thank you guys for all the support this year. We are growing, and we're growing fast, so I love it. And let's continue, and I will be doing a little bit more reviews on films, especially with a lot of films coming out next year. So like I always say, grab a tick, grab a seat, make sure you got some good popcorn to eat. I'll see you at the cinema, guys. Bye.